Hello, GED students. So I got a question from Ashley on Facebook, who's been working through inequalities, and she sent me both this equation on the left and this inequality on the right. And I just want to show you how solving is solving. I'm going to go through the same basic process here. Just the way I think about my answer is going to be a little different. So let's go ahead and tackle the equation on the left first. Now, I want to warn you, I keep going back and forth because just off the top of my head, I could come up with two different ways to solve this. They would both give me the same answer though. So if you started a different way, it doesn't necessarily mean you're wrong, okay? So just look to see if our solutions end up the same in the end. So a very good first rule of thumb, a wisdom principle for solving equations is if there's any simplifying you can do on the left-hand side or the right-hand side, you should go ahead and do that first. And I do know some simplifying that I could do. I could go ahead and multiply or pass out the 2 to all the terms in the parentheses. That's known as the distributive property. It's a really important one to understand for solving equations. If you don't know it, you should go back and check out the distributive property videos that we have. And so all I did was simplify the left-hand side. I passed out that act of multiplication. 2 times x is 2x. And if I add 3 2 times, then I end up adding a total of 6, or 2 times positive 3 is positive 6. Two different ways to think about that same thing. Great, so I simplified the left-hand side. Now, there is no simplification to do on the right-hand side. There's just the number 4, so I'll just drop that down. Okay. Now I'm out of simplification I can do. I can't do the addition because I don't know what 2x plus 6 is. How could I know that? X is unknown. And I can't do the multiplication implied here. Again, how could I know what 2 times x is when I don't know x? And so the simplifying is done. It's time to start solving. It's time to start moving things away so my letter can be alone. Let's pick up another color here. So I've got 2 numbers to get rid of. I have this 2 and I have this 6 here. Remember that when you're solving, you're actually working your order of operations backwards. So I'm going to move anything that's adding or subtracting first. Let's move away this plus 6. Again, you move things away by doing the opposite. So the opposite of adding 6 is subtracting 6. So I will make that 6 go away by subtracting him. Now the rule of solving is I can do whatever I want as long as I do it to both sides. So I copy that on the right-hand side of my equation. And now let's see what my new equation will be if I make that change on both the left-hand side and the right-hand side. Well, on the left-hand side, if I take away the 6 that I was adding, I won't have that 6 anymore. Now all I have left is the 2x. And on the right-hand side, 4 minus 6, and you can work this in your TI if you're not aware of this, but 4 minus 6 is negative 2. I took away more than what I had. I end up in the hole. I'm almost done now. My letter's almost alone, but I still have this 2 to get rid of. See it? It's hanging out, so x can't be alone. Okay, so I need to get rid of this 2. Now, the key to getting rid of something is doing the opposite. So what is this 2 doing with x? Well, they're all shoved together like that, so they must be multiplying. So I'll do the opposite. I'll divide. And again, I can do whatever I want to an equation or an inequality as long as I do it to both sides. So I duplicate that divide by 2 on the right-hand side. And now let's look at what our new equation will be. On the left-hand side, multiplying and dividing by 2 are opposites, so they cancel, and I'm left with just one single solitary x, just x. And on the right-hand side, negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Again, if you had this on the GED, you would have your TI 30XS, so if you didn't know that, you could type that in your calculator. All right, so in this case, I got x is equal to negative 1. I only have one possible answer. The answer negative 1 is the only possibility, and I'm just showing you my answer in a number line so you can see what that would look like. Just a dot on negative 1. Negative 1 is the only answer. So now let's go compare that to almost the exact same thing, but now it's an inequality. So take a look at this right-hand side with me. On the right-hand side, it looks like I have the same thing going on. 2 times the quantity of x plus 3, but this time instead of the left and the right hand side being equivalent, the left hand side is less than 4. It's less than the right-hand side. But that really doesn't change my work. I'm still going to solve the same way. So I will start by passing out my 2. And again, if that's not your first step, you do something else. It's not the only way I could think of that. But there I go. I did the multiplication. I simplified. I multiplied 2 times x and got 2x. And I multiplied 2 times positive 3, and I got positive 6. Now, I've done nothing that would affect my inequality sign, so it stays like that. And same thing with 4. And now it's time to start solving. And just like always, I work the order of operations backwards when solving, so I'll take anything adding or subtracting first. And just like always, I'll write not my new equation, but my new inequality. So if I add 6 and subtract 6, those cancel out, so just 2x is left on the left-hand side. Again, I've done nothing to flip my inequality sign. Be careful. Basically, the only difference between equations and inequalities, the solving is done exactly the same way. The only new thing you have to learn is that when you flip, it doesn't come up in this problem, but you do need to know it for the GED. So when you multiply or divide by a negative number, the inequality symbol flips. So like a less than would turn into a greater than, or so on and so forth. But it doesn't happen in this problem. I didn't multiply or divide by a negative. I just subtracted 6. So no change. 4 minus 6 is negative 2. And then to get rid of that 2, again, I will divide by 2. Now, some students who get a little confused about this rule that I just wrote will try to flip their inequality symbol. Now they'll say, Kate, shouldn't it be greater than now? Because look, I was dividing by a negative. No. You were dividing by, this is the number you're dividing by. You divided by positive 2. Your inequality symbol should not flip around. And negative 2 divided by 2 is, of course, negative 1. So I get almost the same answer, but careful. This is a range of answers. What I'm saying here is x is anything that's less than negative 1. Anything less than negative 1. So negative 1 is not a answer, because negative 1 is not less than negative 1, but it is where my answers start. So I do an open dot if I were going to graph this, and then I would graph off to the right, because every single thing that's less than negative 1 could be a solution to this. Negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 1.73. Lots of different possibilities here. And so solution process is exactly the same. The only difference is here with an equation, I get just the one answer. And here with the inequality, I get this range of answers. All right, if you have any questions about this or any other GED math topic, be sure to drop it in the comments and I'll do my best to answer it.